Hello everyone, welcome back. In this part, we're going to talk about how to solve tax problems. Okay, let's begin. We talked about a situation where $1.5 or $1.50 tax is enforced on the buyer. So now we're going to find how the dynamics of the system change. First of all, we need to find the equilibrium. The old equilibrium, the old supply and demand, what happens in the market. Now, in order to do this, you need to be able to find the formula for the supply curve and the demand curve. For that, you have to go back to our mathematics, everyone's favorite subject. In order to find a formula for a curve, you need 2 points of this curve. Of course, provided that the curve is linear, which is in our case, you need 2 points on the curve. Now we have 2 points, 11 and 450 and 10, 500. Let's first find the formula for the demand curve. We have 11 and 10, 450 and 500. This is 10, this is 11. Now, first you need to find the slope of the curve. The slope of the curve changes in this axis over changes in this one. So if you go from 11 to 10 on price axis, you'll have 450 to 500 on the quantity axis, which is equal to 1 over minus 50 or 2%, minus 2%, or 1 over 50 negative 1 over 50. This is the slope of the curve. Now we have the slope of the curve. We have to find the intercept. Remember, a linear curve has two parameters. First, the slope, then the intercept. Price is equal beta multiplied by Q plus some alpha. Beta is our slope, alpha is our intercept. Now that we have a point, we need only 1 point. If you have the slope, you need only 1 point on the curve to find the intercept. We have 10 and 500. Let's do this. 10 equals minus 1 over 50 multiplied by 500 plus some unknown intercept of alpha. This is minus 10, which just goes on the other side. So our alpha will be 20. Your intercept in 20. So your first demand curve is price equal minus 1 over 50 quantity of demand plus 20. Remember this formula. Let me so our demand 1 is equal price 1 over 50 quantity of demand plus 20. Now we need to next find the supply curve. In order to find the supply curve, same method, you have to find 2 points on the supply curve. We already have 500, 10, and 450 and 9. This is 500, 10, this is 450, and this was 9.5, I guess, yes, 9.5. So if we do the same method, first let's find the slope. Let's call it beta. This is 0.5 over 50 over 50, which is equal 1 over 100. So this is our slope. Now we have the slope, P equal 100 multiplied by quantity of supply plus some, again, alpha. We don't know it. We want to find it out. We have 10 equals 5 plus some alpha. So our alpha is equal 5. Let's use these 2 points. This goes here. This goes here. Our alpha will be equal to 5. So our supply curve would be is equal P equal 1 over 100 quantity of supply plus 5. If I'm not mistaken. Now let's find the equilibrium point. You have your 2 curves. First curve is P equal quantity of demand. Let me use it this way. Much easier like this. Price equals minus 150. Minus 150 quantity of demand plus, what was our intercept? 20. Our second curve, which is our supply curve, is equal 1 over 100 quantity of supply plus 5. Now, what is the equilibrium? The equilibrium point is here, when these 2 curves meet each other, meaning that I, the consumer, and Pizza Hut, the producer, we agree on the same price and the same quantity. In economics, we call this P star and Q star. So at this point, we both arrive at the same price and the same quantity, meaning these 2 are equal. So prices are equal and quantities are equal. If you set the 2 prices equal, you can have minus 1 over 50 multiplied by quantity, like call it quantity Q star, plus 20 equals 1 over 100 multiplied by, again, Q star plus 5. Now we can solve for quantity on equilibrium. You put this here, you send this part here and this one here, and you will have 15 equals, this would be 2, say it is 3 over 100 quantity of star. So our Q star is equal 15 multiplied by 100 divided by 3. It's equal 500. This is our equilibrium. Our equilibrium is 500. Now you can put this quantity back into any of these 2 supply or demand curves and find the price star. The price star is equal, for example, if you put it here, 500 divided by 100, that's 5 plus 5. So your P star is equal 10. This is your equilibrium point, 10, 500. So now we have our first equilibrium. Let's call this equilibrium 1. Price is 10. Quantity is equal 500. This is our equilibrium 1. Now, up to this point, we just solved the very basic economic question. You have a supply curve, you have a demand curve, find me the equilibrium point. Now we introduce taxes. So now something in the market changes. When you introduce taxes, someone is directly affected. Who? The poor guy who's paying the tax. So in this case, who is paying the tax? The person who's buying the pizza. The person who's buying the pizza has to pay $1.5 tax for every pizza bought. This would immediately shift his demand curve or her demand curve to the left. So this was your demand 1, this is your demand 2. Now you're facing a new demand curve, at which point your intercept goes down. Your new alpha is equal to your old alpha minus the tax, how much tax you have to pay. So your new intercept will be your old intercept was 10 or 20. Let me see. Forget out 20. Yep. So your new intercept, alpha 2, is equal to 18.5. Again, your old intercept minus the tax. This is your new intercept, 18.5. The slope of the curve doesn't change. The slope of the curve doesn't change. The curve would just shift down because it's a bad thing. Nobody likes to pay taxes. Remember, bad things would shift demand curves down. Bad news for the market would let when you have some bad news happening, which shifts the people out of the market, your demand curve would shift down. The slope of the demand curve, you don't need to really know this. The slope of the demand curve is about the inner characteristics of the buyer, how they are. That's why we care about elasticities. We want to know how sensitive people are. Here, people are the same. People didn't change here. Here, the dynamics of the market changed. Now, people have to pay a fixed tax for one pizza they're buying. So now you have a new intercept while your slope is the same. So your new intercept which is, let's call this demand 2, is price equal same slope as before, but a different lower intercept. This is your demand curve. In this case, you have a new demand curve because you know you're paying taxes. You won't be able to buy as many pizzas as before because you won't be able to afford that many. You're facing a new reality. Now, using this curve and this curve, we can find our new equilibrium. Again, suppliers didn't change. Suppliers don't need to pay any taxes. They don't change. But the demand side changes because these are the people who have to pay that tax. So they will shift down. Supply remains the same. Now, this is our supply curve. Start somewhere here. This was the old demand curve, demand 1, and this is our new demand curve, demand 2. Quantity and price. Now, this was our old equilibrium, equilibrium 1. This will be the new equilibrium, equilibrium 2. At this point, at this equilibrium 2 is what's actually being handled. This is when the quantities are being traded. How many pizzas are being bought and sold is decided here at this point, because now it's the new reality. People now are paying taxes. So now you have to put this curve equal to this curve to be able to find a new reality of the market. If we do this, yes, I love it. Maybe later. Okay, when you do this, you'll have different numbers. If you put this curve equal to this curve to find this, let me open a new one. I don't know about you, but I'm only thinking about the vaccine when I'm doing this. It's just so hard to jump from one window to the other. I'm sure it's hard for you to watch these online lectures. Please, whoever building a vaccine, be faster. P equal 1 minus 50, negative 1 over 50 multiplied by quantity of demand plus 18.5. This is our new demand curve, and our supply curve is 1 over 100, 1 over 100, quantity of supply plus, what was the intercept, 5. Now, if we set these 2 points together as equal, we can find our new equilibrium. And at equilibrium, again, remember, prices are equal and quantities are equal now. Because both I, the consumer, and Pizza Hut, the supplier, we agree on the same price. So it will be something like this. It would be, this goes there, this goes here. Be 3 over 100 multiplied by Q star equals 13.5. Boy, I don't like this number. Let's see, what's our Q star? That's 3. That's 13.5 multiplied by 100 divided by 3. Yes, we have a number. This is our Q star. This is our new quantity. This is the real number of pizzas that are being bought and sold, the golden number here. This is what we care about. Now, you can put this number in either of these two curves, here or here, and you can find the price, the new price. Now, there is a thing about the new price. The new price isn't real. There is a huge difference. Now that we have 450, old curve, new curve, demand 1, demand 2, quantity, price, and supply. This was 500. This is 450. This old price was 10. Now, when you put the number 450 in either of those two curves we just did, we'll find that the price is now 9.5. 9.5. Now, this price is what's going into the supplier's pocket. I am paying a higher price than that. I'm paying here. This is my demand. If you add 1.5, I'm paying 11 because I, the buyer, have to pay some taxes. I am responsible for the taxes of this market. So I'm paying 11, but then 1.5, the difference between 11 and 9.5, this is the tax. The tax goes to government. Goes to government. This money is gone. It's not going back to the Pizza Hut. It's going to the government. What goes into the government, what goes into the Pizza Hut pocket is this money, the intersection between the supply curve and the new demand curve. When you have this number, you put this number into your first demand curve to find out how much I'm willing to pay for these many pizzas. That's 11. 11 is the number I'm paying for. Or you could just, when you find this number, 9.5 intersection, you add the tax here. You don't need to go back to that. That's harder. For a simpler way, you just add the tax to the money that goes into Pizza Hut's pocket. 1.5 is equal 11, same number. So you can do either of those two. You can find the new price, P star, then add the tax to it to find the P, let's call this P equilibrium 2 or P demand 2, something like that. This is the new P, the new price that I'm paying for. I'm paying 11, but then when I pay 11, this is 500, this is 450, this is 9.5, this is 10, and this is 11. Now, remember, I was supposed to pay the tax. It was my job. I'm the buyer. The tax was levied on me. I was supposed to pay the tax myself. But in the end, what actually happened is that I only pay $1 of the tax, and the other half is paid by the business, by the pizza shop. You see, I was supposed to pay the entire $1.5 tax. But then because market changed and I lowered my consumption, Pizza Hut actually got hurt as well. Now Pizza Hut went down from 10 to 9.5. Now Pizza Hut is the one who actually has to share the burden of the tax. Remember here, we talked about manner in which the burden of a tax is shared among participants in the market. So this is very tricky. Many politicians think they really like money, so they tax luxury goods. Think they can really easily like tax luxury goods because They like the money they're getting to help poor people. But then what happens is that because the elasticity of luxuries is a lot higher for the demand than for the supply, what happens, you see, adopted a new luxury tax on luxury boats, private jets, fur, jewelry, expensive cars. The goal was to raise revenue for those who could most easily afford to pay. Everyone say, okay, if you're buying a private jet, you can afford to pay 10%, 20% more. You can afford to pay another $10,000 as tax. You're already super rich. But then the rich person, the billionaire, isn't the only one who ends up paying the tax. What happens here is that your consumption, let's say we're all billionaires and we're buying private jets. Our demand curve shifts from here to here. We reduce our consumption. When we reduce our consumption, we're not paying the old price to the producers. The producers will have to lower their price. Not only they lower their price, they have to fire some workers because their sales went down. So this means now the burden is shared. Not only the super rich person who's buying a private jet has to pay, but also the poor worker who works for the Boeing, like the jet company, or the truck driver who takes their supplies to them, or the person who wasn't supposed to pay for that tax ends up paying the price because now the companies will pay. And we'll see next time, because luxuries have a really high elasticity. Often when you tax luxuries, the rich person who is supposed to pay the tax ends up paying a smaller share, a much smaller share than the middle class small business owner or the salesman or the company that is providing that good or that service. So one reason to be very careful about taxing luxury goods. When you tax luxury goods, because demand is quite elastic, supply is relatively inelastic, this is what happens. You see, in the short run, supply is inelastic, hence companies that build luxury boats ends up paying most of the tax. This green part is the share that is paid by the company. The red part is paid by the company. The small green part is the burden on buyer, the rich person who buys the luxury boat. This is why luxury taxes are hurtful. One more time. For certain goods like luxuries, demand is quite elastic, while supply is relatively inelastic. Therefore, the rich person ends up paying a smaller share of the tax than the middle income business owner who is providing that service. So this kind of tax systems often ends up killing their own purpose. They're missing the point. Next time we meet, we are going to, where is it? We are going to solve this question. Here, tax is spent on the buyers, and we're going to find a new system. Also, there are situations when the tax is imposed on the seller. When the tax is imposed on the seller, the same thing would happen, only this time supply curve would change. Supply curve would shift up or down. We will talk about it later. So practice on this and make sure you can solve this question. Find a new equilibrium point, find a new situation in the market, and see you next time. Thank you very much.